Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your experience of hypnosis. Now, everyone's experience of hypnosis is different, and for the same person, every time they go into hypnosis, the experience can be different. So I don't know if when you listen to the previous recording on the previous track, you went very deep into hypnosis or just enjoyed a very light state of hypnosis. I tend to find that people go to the level, the depth that is right for them at the time. Now, as with many other things in life, practice does make perfect. So if you were to listen to that recording again 2 or 3 times, or maybe even more than that, you'll find it easier and easier to go into hypnosis and maybe be able to go deeper next time. But I want you to know that whatever you experience on that first occasion is fine, and whether you found that you were concentrating and focusing on every word that I was saying, or whether you found that your mind was wandering off somewhere else entirely, it doesn't really matter. It's okay, it's fine. So whatever your experience was, it's okay. Now, what I was using on that recording was a fairly common sort of approach. I used a fairly typical kind of induction. I used a very common kind of deepener, and I also used the most common standard way of bringing you out of the hypnotic state. So let me just talk about inductions first of all. Probably the most common induction used by hypnotherapists is some form of body relaxation, and body relaxation comes in various forms, various guises. Probably the most common one is where you have the client be aware of the top of the head and focus on the top of the head, and then imagine a wave of relaxation is drifting down to the forehead, drifting down into the muscles around the eyes, down into the muscles in the face, around the jaw, the mouth, through the neck, the shoulders, and all the way down the arms to the tips of the fingers, and down through the torso, the chest, the stomach, abdominal area, past the hips, thighs, and so on, all the way down to the toes. An alternative way of doing it is to do it the other way around, starting with the toes and working up to the top of the head. The way I chose to do it for the demonstration, as you'll have noticed, was to get you to kind of scan your own body and see if you could find that part of your body that felt the most relaxed to you at the time, and then get you to allow or imagine that relaxation drifting into all the other different parts of your body. A variation on the theme of body relaxation, and this is an approach that many hypnotherapists use. It's an approach that I use on occasions. It's where you get the client or the other person, the person experiencing the hypnosis, to systematically tense up and then relax different parts of the body. And I'll just give you a brief example of that now. So if I was to ask you, for example, first of all, just to tense up your hands, make fists of your hands, and just hold them there for a few seconds, and then let them relax, and you see what happens there is you're more aware of the relaxation because of the contrast between the tension and the relaxation. So one approach that many people use is, and you can start typically with the toes, get the person to maybe tense up their toes, or maybe give their toes a bit of a stretch, and then get them to relax. And then maybe tense up other parts of the feet and ankles, and then let them relax. And then tense up the calves, the calf muscles. And you might like to try this now if you aren't already doing so. Maybe just tense up your calf muscles, even if it's just a little bit, and then let them relax. And you can do this kind of approach from bottom to top, top to bottom, and it's very powerful, very effective. Now, there are many other ways of inducing hypnosis, including some very quick, some very rapid techniques, including some as used by stage hypnotists. And these kind of rapid inductions are probably more common and more used in the US than they are over here in the UK. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the rapid inductions, certainly not the instant inductions as used by stage hypnotists, because I think there's enough misinformation and fear about hypnosis out there amongst the general public, and I just think that these rapid inductions are in danger of kind of making that fear even more, or even confirming the fear, making that fear worse. Now, having said that, I do use some relatively quick inductions on the odd occasion, particularly if I'm working with a client on a third or fourth session maybe, and I know that they're able to go into hypnosis very easily, very readily, in which case I'm not going to spend 15 minutes going through a slow, long drawn out body relaxation and doing the deepener and all the other things. If I know they're going to be able to go into hypnosis within 2 or 3 minutes, then I will use something that's just going to take 2 or 3 minutes. Another thing that I find very helpful in inducing hypnosis, and it's something that I use on the demonstration, is the idea of focusing on the breathing. Because you see, when we focus on our breathing, something very powerful happens. And maybe you'd like to do this again now. If you'll just be aware of your breathing now, and noticing the rise and the fall of your breathing. You see what that does, it puts you in the moment, in the now, and that in itself can be very calming, very relaxing. So it's something I often use quite early on in an induction. So having that awareness of not only the breathing but also different parts of the body, but particularly the breathing. And you can also add in the suggestion that with each in-breath you breathe in new, relaxing, positive energy, and with each out-breath you breathe out any unwanted negative energy, and with each out-breath you can allow yourself to go deeper and deeper, and that kind of approach. So that's inductions, and there are many other ways of, as I say, of inducing hypnosis. For example, having the client stare at a spot on the wall or the ceiling, and get to really stare at that for a couple of minutes, with the suggestion that as they continue to stare at that spot, their eyes become heavier and heavier, which is a good way, a neat way of getting the client to initially close their eyes. But now on to hypnotic deepeners, because you've got them to focus on the breathing, they've closed their eyes, you've done some kind of body relaxation, and in all honesty, from a therapy perspective, that is probably all that you need to do with many people. But if you were to really deepen the state of hypnosis, and I like people to enjoy the state, although I don't personally believe that deep hypnosis is that important from a therapeutic point of view, I like my clients at least to enjoy as deep a state as possible. So on most occasions I will use some form of deepener. A very common sort of deepener is having the client imagine going down a staircase. So I get them to imagine standing at the top of some steps, maybe 10 steps, and get them to imagine looking down at those steps, and get them to imagine them as clearly, as vividly as they can in their mind. And then I suggest that they're going to go down those steps one step at a time, and with each step they're going to go deeper and deeper. So imagine now just looking down those steps and taking that first step as you drift down from 10 down to 9, and now on to the next step, going deeper and deeper, and doing that approach all the way to the bottom of the steps. And that's that's a very common deepener. Another approach might be to have the client imagine going down in the lift and going deeper and deeper as they go down and down and down in that lift. If you're going to use that kind of deepener, you need to make sure, you need to have established beforehand that the other person, the client, doesn't have a fear of lifts or any form of claustrophobia, because then of course having them imagine being in a lift is not going to have the desired effect. If anything, it's going to have the opposite effect. And likewise with stairs, if you've got a client who you know is not very steady or unsure about stairs, or has an extreme fear of heights, then a staircase might not be a good deepener to use with those kind of people. But a very common deepener, as used on the demonstration, is the idea of this special place. So I'd like you to imagine now walking through into some kind of place where nobody wants anything, nobody expects anything. Your special place. And your special place can be real or imaginary, it can be a place you've enjoyed visiting, etc., etc. Now, I always allow the client to choose where their special place is. The way that some people do it is they tell the client where their special place is. For example, I'd like you to imagine that you're at a beautiful beach. Sorry about I don't know if you can hear the dog barking in the background, but I think it's stopped now. Sorry about that. But some hypnotherapists, they have the client imagine being on a beach. Some people don't like beaches. Some people may have some anxiety about beaches or the sea, or being near the sea. Some people don't particularly like gardens. They don't find gardens particularly relaxing. So I give the client a choice. I may make one or two suggestions of what kind of place their special place might be. Yeah, for example, your special place may be some kind of beach, a tropical beach, or some other kind of beach, or a beautiful garden, or somewhere in the countryside, or maybe by a lake or in the hills. But I don't tell them where it should be. I leave it up to them. Having then got them to imagine being in their special place, and of course some people, it may take them a little while to decide on where it is. They might have a garden that they like, there might be some favourite holiday destination that they like, there might be some other place, and they might be a little undecided. But hopefully they'll make their mind up relatively quickly and choose one particular place. Having done that, then I get them to engage, to use as many of their senses as they possibly can, as I did in the demonstration. So I get them to, if possible, to see the place. What colours can they notice? What shapes can they see? What about the sounds? Birds singing? Leaves rustling in the breeze? What does it feel like to be in that place? Is there a fragrance? Is there a perfume? So get them to really engage their senses. So that's a very common deepener. The final bit, and a very crucial bit, is rather than allow the person, the client, to emerge from hypnosis in their own time, which they will eventually do, and no one is going to get stuck in this hypnotic state. They'll either fall asleep or come out of it in their own time. But the way to bring them out is, and it's a very common approach, is to count them back up. Whether you count them from 1 to 5 or something 1 to 10 doesn't really matter. So in a moment I'm going to bring you back on the count of 5. You can open your eyes and come back to full wakeful awareness, and then count up from 1 to 2, and increasing the volume in your voice as you get nearer to 5, and then 5 and eyes open and wide awake. So that's the part on inductions and deepeners. So that's the end of this particular video, and I'll see you again very soon for the next one. Okay, thank you.